The Most Precious Gift. Part 1. Long ago, there was a merchant named Luca who sailed to faraway places in search of spices. He loaded up his ship with goods such as leather, olive oil, and cloth, and traded them for nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves. One day, while at sea, a large storm blew his ship toward a small island. Luca sailed to shore and was welcomed by the people and their king. Seeing that Luca was hungry, the island king invited him to lunch. Arriving at the castle, Luca followed the king into the dining room. As they sat down, soldiers with sharp sticks came and surrounded the room. They looked nervously toward the hallway. Luca was puzzled. "Forgive me if I am bold," he said to the king, "but I must ask, why do the soldiers stare at the doorway? Is something dangerous out there?" Before the king could answer, a large group of rats rushed into the hall and leapt onto the table. Using their sticks, the soldiers tried to scare the rats, but that was of no use. They ate up whole cakes and cheeses, spilled drinks everywhere, and knocked over plates and bowls. At first, Luca was frightened, but he thought, "I can't run away like a coward." So he looked on calmly until he came up with a plan. Part 2. Luca ran to his ship. Minutes later, he came back with a basket and handed it to the king. The king opened the lid, and out jumped 2 cats. No sooner did the cats catch sight of the rats than the cats started chasing the pests, making them flee deep into the forest. The disappearance of the rats made the king grin with pleasure. "What wonderful animals these cats are," the king said. "Thank you," Luca said. "They are my gift to you." Just then, a chest filled with precious jewels was brought into the dining room. "The cats have changed our lives," the king said. "We thank you with these jewels." And so, Luca sailed back home with his new riches. After he arrived, he told everyone his story. Part 3. A merchant named Marco heard Luca's story and thought, "Wow, that king gave Luca a fortune for 2 cats. Imagine if I brought things that are worth something." So the next day, Marco filled his ship with precious things and sailed to the king's island. He was a sneaky man and told no one of his plan. After a long, hard journey, Marco reached the island. As soon as he arrived, he was greeted by the king and his people. Marco said, "I am a friend of Luca's. I bring you wonderful gifts." Marco unloaded the ship until it was empty. He gave the king fine silks and jewelry, special spices and nuts, and much more. The king was delighted. He looked at the treasures and disappeared into the castle. He returned, carrying a simple basket. Marco knew the basket must contain something really special. He lifted the cover and looked inside. What Marco saw made him gasp. His face turned red, and his body froze. He tried to talk, but could not say a word. Inside the basket were 2 kittens, one black and one white. "You do not have to speak," the king said happily. "I understand completely, for I have given you the most precious gift of all."
A Trip to Muir Woods, Part 1. Before the sun was up, Raoul jumped out of bed. He was so excited about today's class trip to Muir Woods, a national park near San Francisco, California. Park Ranger Anna was their host, and she told them about the park rules. "Look all around you," she said. "Be curious and ask questions. Be kind to the forest and always stay on the trail." The group started out early, while the woods were still quiet. Following Ranger Anna down the trail, Kim was in the front. Then came Jake, Keisha, and Brianna. Raoul was last, walking slowly and looking at everything along the way. The redwood trees seemed to touch the sky as rays of sunlight sparkled through their branches. "Isn't this beautiful?" Kim said. Raoul nodded. "How tall do you think the redwoods are?" Ranger Anna asked. "Taller than me," Raoul joked. A couple of his classmates laughed, and Raoul hoped that Ranger Anna would not scold him. He didn't mean to be rude. At first, Ranger Anna gave Raoul a serious look. Then she laughed and said, "Yes, they're as tall as 50 adults combined. These trees were alive when Christopher Columbus discovered America. Some are more than 2,000 years old. Muir Woods is a national park that protects these trees." Raoul was sure this was the most amazing place he had ever been to as he looked up at the redwood trees. Part 2. Farther along the trail, the hikers stopped to take a rest. Just then, a bag of nuts fell out of Raoul's backpack. As he reached down to pick up the bag, a chipmunk appeared and gathered all the nuts that had fallen. It quickly turned around to dart back up the tree. It happened so fast that Raoul didn't know what to do. "I think that little chipmunk opened my backpack. What a sly creature," said Raoul. The whole group laughed as they tried to spot the chipmunk. "See," said Ranger Anna, "that is why we do not carry food in the woods. We don't want to change anything around us. Let's keep hiking." Soon after, Raoul spied something bright and yellow and as long as his finger. He bent over it to get a closer look. Raoul called out, "A banana slug!" He continued, "Slugs need to stay cool and moist. Their slime and the morning fog help them to stay that way." "Wow," Keisha and Brianna said, watching the slug leave a trail of slime. The sight made Jake gulp. Then he reached out his hand to pick up the slug. Before he could, Ranger Anna said, "Please do not touch the slug. Banana slugs are great, but picking them up can hurt them." Part 3. On the hike, the group saw much more. Monarch butterflies, spotted owls, large pine cones, and horsetail ferns. By the end of the trip, the hikers had seen and walked so much that everyone was weary. They were ready to go back to school and talk about what they had seen. That is, everyone except Raoul, who was upset that the hike had ended. Ranger Anna told him not to be sad, that he could visit the woods any time. Soon, the hikers were back in their classroom, and on their desks were crayons, paints, and paper. They all sat down and started to draw what they had seen that day. Jake drew the banana slug, and Keisha painted a wren eating seeds near the ferns. Raoul sketched the chipmunk on his backpack. The children finished hanging their pictures just as their parents arrived to pick them up.
A Day at Chicago's Green City Market. Part 1. Light peeks through the trees, and birds sing their morning songs. It's early Saturday morning, and Chicago's colorful farmers market will be open soon. Each seller arrives at 5 a.m. to set up at Lincoln Park, a large green area in the city of Chicago. Many sellers put up tents to work in the shade. When the hot sun is all the way up in the sky, they will be cool as cucumbers under their tents. The sellers unload their trucks and lay out their goods, fruits and vegetables of all sizes and colors. The last step is to put the price of the item on the chalkboard so that buyers know how much each thing costs. Now, the stands are ready for the customers. Soon, blue and white tents are scattered all over Green City Market. Over 70 sellers come every Wednesday and Saturday. They bring all kinds of food, such as breads, fruits, cheeses, and meats. But that's not all. There are also beeswax candles, ice cream, tamales, and fresh pastas. In one area, a chef fries up dumplings, while another grills meats. Everyone is ready to eat good food and have a fun time. Part 2. At 7 a.m., customers start to arrive, and the market fills up fast. People come to shop, talk, and relax. Families and friends come from all over Chicago to spend the day at the market. Some ride bicycles or walk. Others drive or take buses or trains. The summer air is warm with the smell of freshly baked breads and pastries as people walk slowly around the market area. A cook picks up some ripe tomatoes, which will be perfect for some fresh salsa. Children sniff fresh flowers. Sellers give out food samples, and buyers try all the different treats. They take little sips of apple cider and taste tiny spoonfuls of raspberry jam. With so many good things to taste, it's hard to know what to buy. It's berry season, and everyone wants a box of the sweet fruits. People move at a rapid pace and quickly surround the strawberry stand. The seller sees more people coming and walks away. Before people start to complain, she is back with more to sell. Now all are happy as they pick up the fresh berries. Part 3. The market stands are not all that there is. At Green City Market, there's much for children to do, too. Children can make vegetable prints with lettuce and potatoes. They dip the veggies in paint and then press the designs on paper. Families sit on blankets in the grass while children play tag. They have picnics of sandwiches, corn on the cob, and cold lemonade. After lunch, some children go to the garden. They help to plant squash, tomatoes, carrots, onions, and more. Using their hands, they help to yank out all the weeds growing around the vegetables. When it's time to go home, everyone works together to gather the garden tools and tidy up the area. It's hard work to keep a garden, but it's so much fun to watch it grow. By 1 o'clock, most of the food has been sold, and the tents are down. The market is closed until next Wednesday or Saturday morning, when it will come alive once more.
An Emperor Penguin Grows Up. Part 1. These birds are emperor penguins. Emperor penguins are the largest penguins in the world. They are about 50 inches tall. That's about as tall as some 6-year-old children. These beautiful birds live in Antarctica, near the South Pole. In Antarctica, winter starts in June, where the temperature can be as low as 60 degrees below zero. It is so cold that it is dangerous to be outside. But not for emperor penguins. The penguins have a lot of fat and feathers on their bodies to protect them from the cold weather. Just before winter, around late May, the mother penguin lays her egg. Then she heads for the ocean to hunt for food. Back on land, the father penguin uses his special body pouch to keep the egg safe and warm. Look at the father penguins. On top of their feet rests an egg. In each penguin family, it is the father penguin's job to care for the egg. To do so, he stays in one place for 2 whole months, protecting the egg from the cold. Still, the father penguins must keep warm too. When fierce winds blow, they huddle together in a group. Inside the group, the penguins and their eggs are safe from the cold temperatures as the winds howl. So that no one feels the freezing conditions for too long, the penguins take turns being on the outside of the group. Part 2. It is now August, and the mother penguin is on her way back. The father penguin calls out to her. The mother remembers his call and finds her way to him. Soon, the egg begins to hatch, and the penguin chick breaks out of its shell. Its body is covered with fuzzy gray feathers called down. It is the father's turn to hunt for food. Now the mother cares for the chick, who stays cozy in her pouch. The father penguin does not stay away too long. Soon he is back with more food for the growing penguin chick. While the chick is growing, it must eat a lot. The parents continue to take turns caring for the chick and hunting for food. The chick is almost 2 months old. It has replaced its down for a new coat of stiff feathers. To stay warm, it can now huddle with the other chicks, letting both parents go off to hunt for more food. Part 3. By December, the chick has become a young penguin with adult feathers. Look at the young penguins following the adults into the ocean. Summer is coming to Antarctica as the young penguin leaves its parents to hunt for its own food for the first time. Off it goes with the other penguins to slide down the ice into the water. It's the first time in the water, and the young penguin can still swim much better than it can walk on land. This is because of its short wings, which work like flippers. Their wings help them glide through the water to catch fish. Their feathers protect them from the freezing temperature of the water. In about 5 years, the young emperor penguin will be an adult. Then it will have its own chicks to protect and feed.
The Skating Lesson, Part 1. The skaters pass by, so easy and free. They chatter and wave. How hard could it be? I lace up my skates. My mom pulls them tighter. She pats my head and says, "Go get 'em, tiger." A girl all in red draws near and twirls by. She dips, twists, and jumps as if she can fly. She turns and she glides. She's swift on the ice. Maybe one day I can skate just as nice. I peer at my mom, who whispers, "Skate to the song." I step on the ice, but don't glide for so long. I pick up my foot, and then I stumble and fall. The ice is slippery and scary after all. Part 2. I pick myself up. I'm determined to win. But once more I blush and fall right on my shin. I brush myself off and think, this is the worst. And all of a sudden, I have a great thirst. The skater in red speaks. "Hi, my name is Scout. Sorry to startle you, but I think I can help out. First ask your mom if we can go to the arcade. Then we'll drench our dry throats in pink lemonade." We talk and we laugh. I've found a new friend. We sip our sweet drinks right down to the end. "Relax," Scout says. "Skating's no chore." I say, okay, and I'm ready for more. Part 3. Scout takes my hand and leads me onto the rink. She shows me some moves and how not to think. Minutes later, I'm skating. Amazing but true. I'm gliding on ice like all others can do. At dusk, I'm still skating. There's supper ahead. I want to thank Scout, the skater in red. I see her and wave boldly across the wide rink, but she just smiles and spins around in a blink. That night, I think of skating as Mom and Dad doze. I remember my friend Scout as she twirled on her toes. I'm glad I got up and followed her advice. Now I can dream of skating and twirling on ice.
The Amazing Jumping Spider. Part 1. Learn about spiders. Some people don't like spiders. They shudder and squirm when they think about them. It's true that spiders may seem a little scary. After all, they have 8 legs, many eyes, and a set of fangs that can let out venom. And when their egg sacs burst, hundreds of baby spiders crawl out. But spiders are generally not harmful to people. They are harmful only to the creatures they eat. Spiders live almost everywhere in the world, except the South Pole. They live on top of steep mountains, in the forest, on your street, and wherever there are bugs to eat. The fact is, there are more spiders than people living on Earth. More than 40,000 kinds of spiders have been discovered. There may be twice as many still to find. Some spiders have it easy. They make their webs do all the work. First, they spin their sticky cobwebs, which are made of silk threads. Then, they wait for a bug to fly into the tangle of string. Others, like the jumping spider, don't catch their food in a web. Instead, they hunt for it. Part 2. A look at the jumping spider. A jumping spider has great eyesight for hunting. When you examine it, you first notice its 8 eyes. 2 look straight ahead and are especially big. 2 smaller eyes are located next to those. The other 4 are on the sides and in the back of its head. Having eyes in the front and the back helps the spider keep track of the creatures it hunts. Its eyes are also important for it to judge how much space is between it and its prey. Jumping spiders often look different from one another. Some are black and white like zebras. Others have spots of bright color. They blend in with what's around them, which makes it easy for them to hide before attacking. Before a jumping spider is ready to jump, it has to prepare. The spider grabs the end of its silk thread to fasten it to a windowsill or a branch. The thread is as strong as steel, and the spider uses it as its safety line. This way, if it falls, it won't get hurt and can crawl back up the line. With its thread fastened tight, it is ready to jump. Part 3. How a jumping spider hunts. A jumping spider's jump isn't just a little hop. It is a long-distance jump. A jumping spider can jump a distance more than 40 times the length of its body. For a spider, that can mean flying through the air for several feet. If you could jump like a spider, it would mean jumping over 10 cars. However, it can take a jumping spider a long time to find its prey and prepare to jump. When it hunts, a jumping spider is like a tiger. It quietly waits for just the right moment. Then, suddenly, it jumps. It jumps so fast it surprises its prey. The bug becomes frantic. It squirms, moving in every direction. The spider bites the bug with its fangs. The shock of the bite and the venom soon quiet the bug, and it stops trying to spread its wings. Now, the jumping spider eats its meal. When it's done, it may wait a day or two before it starts its amazing hunt all over again.
In tune with the PS 101 chorus. Part 1. It's true that everyone is good at something. Sometimes it takes a while to find out what that something is. For the students of Public School 101 in San Diego, California, it's singing. The children didn't always know how great their chorus would become. In the beginning, some didn't even know they liked to sing. Others were shy and timid and would barely make a sound. But the music teacher, Mr. Blake, was great and told the chorus that they could sing beautifully together. Twice a week, they would meet to practice all kinds of music. Mr. Blake chose the songs, some happy and some sad, and taught them how to feel the music. He said, "A voice is an instrument, just like a piano. The more we practice, the better we sound." Practicing with Mr. Blake was fun and exciting, as he waved one hand in the air and banged the other down on the piano keys. The singers began to relax as they watched Mr. Blake sway to the music. Now they were singing for the whole room to hear. Part 2. Soon the chorus was ready to perform at the school concert. For months they had practiced in the auditorium with Mr. Blake. But this was the first time other people would hear them sing. On the night of the concert, everyone was there. Grandparents and parents, brothers and sisters, cousins and friends all came to listen to the chorus. The singers were nervous. They had never seen so many people there for them. "What happens if we make a mistake?" someone asked. "You just stay calm and keep going," Mr. Blake said. "My role is to conduct and guide you. Just look up and follow me." When the music started, the whole chorus relaxed and started singing. They gave such a lively performance that the audience was blown away. Throughout the auditorium, people started to record the concert. Mothers and fathers proudly raised their cameras to capture the moment. Part 3. The next day, a friend put a video of the concert on the internet for the whole school to watch. Soon, other people started watching it too. Each day it had more and more views. Before long, thousands of people had seen the video and loved it. A while later, Mr. Blake got a phone call. The woman on the phone said she would like to invite the PS 101 chorus to Hollywood to sing on live television. Mr. Blake said it would be an honor and quickly told all of the singers and their families. The chorus remembered how Mr. Blake told them they could do anything they set their minds to, and now they were sure he was right. Before they knew it, it was time to board the bus to Hollywood. "We're going to Hollywood!" they all cheered. The chorus could not believe it. One boy was so excited, he started to whirl around in place like a top. Another girl began to shriek with joy. "Think of all the applause," said one wide-eyed girl, "and the stomping and the cheering. This is going to be great." The children all waved goodbye to their families and settled down in their seats. As the bus pulled away, the members of the PS 101 chorus started to sing their way to Hollywood.
Anansi, the Spider of Wisdom. Part 1. Anansi was a sly spider. He knew it, and everyone told him so. He was always tricking people and getting into mischief. After each trick, the people would say, "Anansi, when will you take our advice and learn to be a wise spider?" Anansi always replied, "Your advice is no good. I will not stop." But one day, Anansi decided he was tired of playing tricks. He thought, "My wish is to become the wisest spider in the land. Then people will come to me for advice." So he came up with one final trick to do just that. Anansi went home and grabbed a large empty gourd with a hole at the top. Then he went around the village gathering wisdom from all the wise people. When he came calling, the villagers were surprised that all Anansi wanted was advice. Hoping that Anansi would use it, they happily gave him all the wisdom they had. Anansi collected the words of wisdom into the gourd like raindrops. He told the villagers how grateful he was for their gifts and then moved on to the next home. He thought, "Soon I will have all the wisdom to myself, and I will stun the villagers with all that I know. In no time, they will come to me for advice." Part 2. After the third day, the gourd was filled to the top with drops of wisdom. Anansi was very pleased with his work. "What a splendid collection of wisdom," he said. "I'm sure to be the wisest creature in the village." Of course, Anansi was a selfish spider. Not wanting to share his wisdom, he decided to hide the gourd. But where? Anansi looked high and low for a safe hiding place. Then he found a tall tree with branches so long they seemed to touch the sky. He thought, "Aha! That is a perfect spot. No one will think of looking in a tree for wisdom." So Anansi strapped the gourd to his back and began to climb up the tree. He soon realized that a gourd filled with wisdom is very heavy. Halfway up the tree, he began to slow down. He started to groan and moan as the large load bounced around on his back. Down below, Anansi saw a group of children who had begun to romp on the grass around the tree. He tried to hide, but they had already seen him. "Hello, Anansi," said one little girl. "What are you doing in that tree?" "Hello," he replied. "I'm practicing my climbing." "Be quick," she shouted. "It looks like it's going to rain." Part 3. Anansi looked up at the sky and saw dark clouds. He knew that stormy weather was coming. He tried harder and harder to reach the top of the tree where the gourd would be safe. But no matter how much he tried, Anansi could not go any farther. He settled on a branch to take a rest and set the gourd down next to him. Anansi looked over at the village and started to think of all the wisdom the villagers had shared. He remembered how delighted they were to share their words of wisdom with him. Suddenly, Anansi put two of his long, thin arms into the gourd. He pulled out drops of wisdom and began to sprinkle them all over the land. As he did this, it started to rain. The drops from Anansi's gourd began to mix with raindrops from the sky. The winds caught them and blew them far and wide. In every corner of the world, drops of wisdom began to rain down. And that is how wisdom spread to villages and towns all over the world. Even today, every time it rains, the people of the village think of Anansi, the wisest spider they had ever known.
Let's make art. Part 1. Painting a scene. Some people are jealous of great artists and their work. They want to make beautiful art too. What they don't know is that everyone can make art. There are many different kinds of art, and each artist has his or her own way of making it. 3 types of art are paintings, clay sculptures, and mobiles. Often, artists get ideas for their art from the things they love. This painter loves the outdoors. She likes to go out with her dogs and roam around in nature. She takes her canvas, easel, paints, and brushes wherever she goes. On this partly cloudy day, she is on a sandy beach. There is a blue-gray sky with white clouds. Her dogs are sniffing the grains of sand. The artist sets down her easel in front of the water and begins to paint. She uses blue and gray paint for the sky. She dabs white paint over it for the clouds. For the ocean, she sprays little dots of white paint over the blue-green waves. She has painted a misty day at the beach. As the painter fills in the soft tan sand, she looks over to her dogs. She sees them splashing in the water. They look like 2 wet streaks of gold. She puts them in the painting too. The artist is pleased with her painting. It almost looks real. It is now time to go home and let it dry. Part 2. Making a clay sculpture. Clay is fun to use. Have you seen an animal sculpture that you like? This sculptor spots a bluebird sitting outside his window. He wants to create a clay sculpture of the bird. First, he rolls a large piece of blue clay into a ball. This will be the bird's body. For the bird's head, he rolls a smaller ball of clay and sticks it to the body. With a rolling pin, the sculptor flattens another piece of clay until it's very thin. From this, he cuts out 2 dainty wings and a bright tail. He carves tiny feathers into the wings and tail before adding them to the sides and back of the body. Once the body is done, it's time to make the face. With black clay, the sculptor rolls out 2 tiny eyes. With yellow clay, he cuts out a triangle for a sharp beak. He sticks the eyes and beak to the round head to make the face. Now the sculpture is complete, and the artist has a cute bluebird. Part 3. Making a mobile. Mobiles are pieces of art that dangle and move in the air. Artists use different materials to make their mobiles, and what they use sometimes depends on what they have on hand. This artist makes a mobile out of paper shapes. The first thing she does is draw different shapes on pieces of color paper. Some shapes look like drops of water. Some look like triangles. And some are perfectly round. She cuts out the shapes and punches a hole near the edge of each one. Then she cuts yarn in different lengths and ties a piece of yarn to each shape. With the yarn in different lengths, the shapes won't tangle when they are hung. Now she is ready to attach the pieces of yarn and the shapes to a coat hanger. Finally, the mobile is finished, and she can hang it up. The artist is silent as she hooks the mobile to the ceiling. She works carefully, making sure not to damage any of the shapes. Then, as a gentle breeze blows in through the window, she watches the shapes dance around above her head. So do what these artists do. The next time you want to create art, think about what you like, or see what catches your eye or is lying around, and go make art.
The Fisherman and the Bear. Part 1. All day long, the fisherman had been at the lake. All day long, he hadn't caught any fish. Finally, the fisherman had had enough and packed up. As he walked back to his shack, he saw that next to each footprint he made was a large paw print. What kind of creature made this, he wondered. Just then, he heard a loud creak. As he got closer, he noticed that the door to his shack was open. The fisherman realized someone was in his shack, but who? He was anxious as he tiptoed closer to look inside. There, he saw a big brown bear. The fisherman stood still and didn't make a sound. He watched as the big bear knocked over jars of his sweet, sticky molasses. "This is all the molasses I have for the year," thought the fisherman. "What will I do if the bear eats it all?" The fisherman became worried. He hadn't caught any fish, and the molasses was all he had to eat. Part 2. As the bear stuck his paw into the largest jar of molasses, the fisherman started to whimper. The bear turned around and stared at him. The fisherman began to plead. "Please, Mr. Bear," the fisherman said, "do not eat all my molasses." But the bear paid no attention. Instead, he stuck his front paw into the molasses one more time and started for the lake. The fisherman noticed that the bear walked with a limp. He held his sticky front paw up to his chest as he moved on 3 legs. He didn't let the paw touch the ground. Once at the lake, the bear stood and put his paw over the water. Soon, hundreds of flies began to buzz around it. Troutfish leapt up to grab a mouthful of the sticky bug molasses. The fisherman had never before seen so many fish flying through the air. He was amazed and watched in silence. As the trout reached for the bugs, the bear swatted them. Soon, dozens of trout lay on the shore of the lake. When he was done fishing, the bear put the fish into 2 neat piles. He then licked his lips and began to gobble down the fish from one of the piles. When he finished, he patted his stomach and moved toward the woods. Part 3. When the bear was finally gone, the fisherman stepped out from where he'd been hiding. He saw the second pile of fish and started to stuff them in his basket. His mother taught him never to trust a bear, so he worked as fast as he could. "I must get these fish before the bear returns," thought the fisherman. It had been such a long day, and he was so hungry. Then, as the fisherman turned around to leave, he noticed the bear hiding behind a blueberry bush watching him. He realized that the bear had left the second pile just for him. The bear wanted to exchange his fish for the fisherman's molasses. The fisherman raised his hand and waved at the bear. Not forgetting his manners, the fisherman shouted, "Thank you, Mr. Bear." He wanted to be polite to the one who had helped him, even if it was a bear. To the fisherman's surprise, the bear gave him a big thumbs up, as if to say, "You're welcome." Then, just like that, the fisherman and the bear went on their way. That night, with their bellies full, the bear and the fisherman were both drowsy. They both laid down for a good night's sleep. It had been quite a day for the fisherman, who had learned that bears could be caring and fair. The bear, too, had been surprised that a fisherman could be so polite. From that day on, every time the fisherman made a fish and molasses sandwich, he remembered the bear.
Ida Lewis, the Lighthouse Keeper. Part 1. In the early years. At night, a light shines on the water. A captain spots the light and sails his ship safely away. He knows the lighthouse is a symbol of warning. It says, "Rocks ahead. Stay away." A keeper cares for the lighthouse and the boats that it guides. One lighthouse known for its keeper is the Lime Rock Lighthouse in Newport, Rhode Island. For many years, it was run by a brave woman named Ida Lewis. Ida Lewis was born in 1842. At 11 years old, her family moved to Lime Rock, where her father was the first keeper of the lighthouse. When Ida was 15, her father became ill and could no longer take care of the lighthouse, so Ida and her mother took over his job. During the day, they kept the lighthouse tidy. Everything was in its place. It was also important that the light from the lighthouse lamp shine brightly each night. So every day, they would clean and polish the large lamp. Every night, they made sure to keep the light burning to warn passing ships of the rocks that could destroy their boats. Part 2. Saving Lives. Ida watched after the traveling sailors in other ways, too. She was a very good swimmer, and she was strong and could row a boat very well. These two skills are what made Ida a heroine. In 1858, Ida was looking out at the rough water when she saw a boat overturn and its young passengers fall into the water. The 4 men hung on to the boat, but they were in danger of drowning. Ida rowed up to the boat to rescue the men. She pulled them into her boat and brought them back to the lighthouse. This was the first time she had rescued anyone, but it would not be the last. 11 years later, on a snowy winter's night, the same thing happened to 2 soldiers. They held onto the sides of the boat, but they faced serious injury. If they stayed in the cold water too long, they would freeze. That night, Ida had a bad cold and was warming her feet near a stove. When her mother spotted the men, she called out to Ida. Without putting on shoes or a coat, Ida ran out with her younger brother to bring the soldiers to safety. To comfort them, Ida gave them dry clothes and sat them beside a warm fire. Part 3. Honoring Ida Lewis. Ida continued to rescue many other lives. During her life, she saved at least 18 people from drowning. Ida did not seek any praise for what she did. Still, the people of Newport decided to celebrate her bravery. On July 4th, 1869, they had a parade. They gave Ida a new boat named Rescue, which she rode on in the parade. Everyone cheered for the woman who had saved so many lives. Ida became so famous that her picture even appeared on the cover of a magazine. Tourists came to Lime Rock Lighthouse asking to meet her. One day, Ida had a very special visitor, Ulysses S. Grant, the President of the United States. Ida took care of the lighthouse until age 69, when she died. Today, people in Newport still honor Ida Lewis. They changed the name of Lime Rock to Ida Lewis Rock and built a monument near her grave. While the lighthouse does not run anymore, a light still burns there in her honor. This way, no one will forget the courage of Ida Lewis.
Wind and Sun. Part 1. Long ago, wind and sun were not friends. Wind would push sun away to show how strong he was. Sun would then shine as bright as she could to show off her strength. And so sun and wind would argue all day long. One day, exhausted from all the fighting, Sun challenged Wind to a contest. "Whoever wins is the stronger one," declared Sun. Sun pointed to a man far below on the frozen ground. The man was taking a journey through the woods. It was almost winter, and the traveler wore a long, heavy cape. "To prove who is stronger," continued Sun, "let's see who can make the traveler remove his cape." "No problem," yelled Wind. Wind knew he would win and quickly agreed to the contest. "A few strong blasts from me," he thought to himself, "and the cape will fly right off the man's back." Part 2. The contest began. Suddenly, Wind blew a long, cold, gusty breeze. Trees swayed and leaves fell to the ground. The man had to clutch his cape tightly so it wouldn't blow away. Then Wind gave one more furious blast. He blew with all his might. Birds clutched the tree branches. Chipmunks and squirrels ran for cover. The poor traveler closed his eyes to keep out flying twigs and leaves. Wind was stronger than ever. The man struggled against Wind's force as he continued his journey along the path. Finally, Wind was exhausted and could not even let out a soft breeze. When Wind stopped, the man began to loosen his grip. Wind was furious that he could not make the man remove his cape. "I give up," Wind called to Sun. "It's your turn." Part 3. Sun was ready. Ever so gently, she aimed her rays at the exhausted traveler on the cold, hard path. Soon, the air was warmer and the ground became softer. Slowly, Sun grew brighter and brighter, hotter and hotter. As he felt warmer, the man no longer needed to wrap the cape so tightly around his shoulders. He began to loosen the cape just a bit. Then Sun shined at her brightest and hottest. Sun's strong, burning rays were unbearable. The traveler could not put up with the heat any longer. He stopped and removed the cape completely before continuing on his journey. "I can't believe it!" exclaimed Wind. "How did you get the man to remove his cape?" "It was easy," replied Sun. "I did it gently, not by force. Little by little, I pushed the man to loosen his cape until he removed it. I won the contest, so I am stronger." Sun and wind never again argued about who was stronger. To this day, Wind reminds himself, "Do not brag about being strong. You may find out that you are wrong."